So up until now, we have been setting attributes on our HTML elements by explicitly adding them via attributes. This is an older way of doing things. There is a more modern way of doing or adding styles to your HTML components, like the border, the specifying the width, and specifying the text alignment. Col span is still done by the attribute. That one will live in there. So let's get started. So let's start by adding a style tag. And up until now, we've been writing HTML, hypertext markup HTML, yes. And now we are going to write some CSS, cascading style sheets. So this code that we're going to write now is going to supply information for the browser to know how to render our elements or change the appearance of our elements. So HTML is the contents of your HTML page or your website, and style tells the browser how it should be presented. So let's start off by targeting tables. So this is an element selector. It's going to target all tables on our page, and we can say width 600 pixels, and we need that one over there at the end. So let's take out the explicit width on the table and save. Let's see if it works. Great, nothing happened, so I'm assuming it works. So let's change it to 800 pixels and see it hit save. Great, our table increases, so that is definitely working. Let's change that back to 600, and let's set the border. So the border is set in two different ways, the long way and the short end. So I'm first going to show you the long way. So that is border width, we have 1 pixel, and we then have to say border type, border style, I think. There we go. Solid, and we can do border color. There we go, and we can say black. Usually you don't use the colors on words. You use hexadecimal hex codes. So black is six zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And let's take out the explicit border we set over here. Delete that, save that, and it should refresh. There we go. You might have noticed our inner borders are now missing. So there's a couple of differences of setting border like this or just setting it on the table. If you, I clicked on the link. If you set it on table, your browser also adds those borders on the columns. So on our reference image, you will see we have a border that's, just zoom in a bit. We have the outside border of the table, and then we have the individual borders on the columns, on each column. So currently we only see the main border on the table. So we can fix that by also adding a style and target the T, you guessed it, a TH, which is the table header. So I already showed you the long way of setting the border. I'm now going to show you the shorthand. So you just do border, and then it's 1 pixel, or solid, sorry. I can't remember. Hold on. So it's the line width, line style, and color. So let's start with the width, 1 pixel. The style is solid, and the color is black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can't count. Great. So save that. And now we have, see it applied it on all our THs automatically, even though we just set it in one place. That's the great thing of CSS. Depending on how you target your elements, you can write something once, and it applies it all to all the matching selectors or the matching elements. So let's tidy this one up. This one is still using the long way. But we can also, so we can say border 1 pixel, solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. But we have now duplicated this. We can move this into one piece of code, or we can consolidate that. We can say table and, not and, but also th. So if you separate by a comma, this will be applied to both of those. So let's move this one. Nope, not that button. That one. Paste that in there, and then we can remove that one and this one. Great. Save. And it's still all working. That's great. We can verify that it's still working, changing it to 5 pixels. Now all of them are 5 pixels. Great. So because we don't differentiate between the border for the columns or the table, we can put this in one. If we had different widths on the table versus the header, we would have to split them out again. Let's add this also to the normal columns to add the borders back in there. Great. So all our borders are now back like they were before. Next thing, we explicitly specified the text alignment. This is also an old way, seen by the red text. We can also fix that by setting it via CSS. One thing that we can't do is apply them or globally on all th elements. If we do that, I can show you momentarily. We can do left and just take out these ones. So how I selected multi-line like that is I clicked on the first line and then I held in Shift and Option, and then I clicked on the bottom row, and then you can, if you keep in Shift, you can move your arrow to the right or to the left, whichever way you want to go. Keep it in, and then you select all of them, and then you can just hit delete, backspace. Great. It's a nice shortcut, I think. So now we applied the text align left, but it's applied it on all our table headers. Remember earlier I said it applies it on everything you specify or any matching target it finds. So currently, if you hover on it, you will see it says th. So it's targeting all ths regardless where it's on the page. So currently our HTML markup is, or the ones we want to be left aligned, is only the very first headers, and they are the ones inside of a T head, but this one is also in T head, so we can change. One option we have is we can go table, and then we can say only if we only want to target anything inside the T head, and then it also needs to be in the TR and then TH. So if you hover on this, you can now, it's VS Code tells you I'm only going to target the TH that's inside a TR, that's inside a T head, that's inside a table. So it's all nested. So it's cascading. It's going down. It's saved. Now all of our other rows are centered aligned like we want, but this one is also left aligned because it's also inside of the T head. So we have a couple of options here. We can move this one out. I'll show you the various options. It's not a right or wrong option here, I think. It depends on what you want to do. So now we moved it outside of the T head, and our food header is center aligned again. That's great. Another option we have is, let me just undo that. Another option we have is to target only the first row inside of the T head. So only target this row and not that row. we can do that as well. So let's do that. So how this works is we have table thead, and then we set tr, and then we're going to use this special pseudo selector, and this is going to be first child, and then we can say th. So if you hover on this, you will see it says it's only going to target a th who is the first child of a thead. So it's the first element inside of the thead. So the second row, which is this one, will not be targeted. So let's see if that works. Let's take out a text align left on that one, move it down to this one, and then let me check that out. Hit save, and there we go. Our first row is now left aligned, and our second row is still centered aligned. That's great. There's multiple ways of accomplishing the same thing, like with multiple other things in life, but HTML and software development is no different. So we can, there's a third option, I think, yeah, this is the third option. We can, so what, there's nothing wrong with using this specific way, but the downsides is if you're, so this selector is very much married now to your structure of your HTML. So if you ever, for some reason, change this markup, let's say you move this down to be the second row. That's a bad example, I know, but just an example. If this row now sits on that side there, now the first row is going to be left aligned, but the other ones are not. So this example, this way of doing it is very much tightly coupling your CSS selectors with your HTML, which usually it's not it depends. Like if you can see this changing a lot, then I would say don't go with this, because it might end up being a brittle solution. An alternative way is we can add a custom class. We haven't created a custom class yet, so this is going to be our first custom class. So how do we create a custom class? You start with period and then the name of the class. In this example, we can call this our main dash headers, and or let's call it main header because it's one of the headers. So you can use dash, or you can do an uppercase, or you can do a lowercase. It all depends on your preference. Just if you decide to use underscore, make sure to use underscore throughout your project. If you use dash, stick to that what's it called? Consistency is key. So if you decide to use dashes, make sure you use dashes throughout your project and don't mix it up. Some classes with, let's say you have a second one that says second header, don't do that in the same project. You're just going to confuse other people that's working on this project, and you yourself, when you go down to your HTML and you want to use that class, you won't remember if you used a dash or a underscore. So consistency is key, and cool. So let's say text align left, and we can remove this from this selector. And if we hit save now, it's all going to jump again to the center because we haven't applied, that's what we call it, we apply this class on an element. because currently it's not targeting like all of these ones. These ones are specifically targeting elements. They don't have a period in front. So they're just targeting all the different HTML elements that we specified, where this one is specifying a custom class name. And as you've noticed, we don't have an HTML element called main-header. And if you hover on this class, VS Code will show you, it says element. It can be on any element, and it is on class main-header. But what's that? That class, we haven't seen that keyword before. So that's what we're going to do now. So if you scroll down to the headers you want to apply on, you can say class, and then you can say main header. And we can copy and paste this on the other ones. Save that. And now it's going to jump to the left. We can also, if we don't want to set it on each column, you can also set it on the row. So we can say main header row. And we can say text line left. I think this should also then inherit down to the columns. We're going to see now some attributes or some CSS selectors or styles don't inherit, or they all inherit, but some default. Can't remember. Yes, so that still works. So now you only set it on the row. Let's just see if we say right. And now they're all on the right. Great. So we only set the class once, and it applies it on all of those. But I prefer main header on all of them. Probably comes down to preference. I don't think there's a right or wrong in this. Other people might say different, but again, there I use the multi-line shortcut, which is Shift and then Option, and you can also type multi-line. So I think I did that, or I pasted multi-line at least. Save, and then it should refresh. Great.